I always ask them, are you going to be okay? I'm not a therapist. I mean, I can be a therapist, but I don't want to be your therapist. I want to help you. So I'm going to have to ask you some questions nobody else is willing to ask. Even your spouse isn't going to ask this, but let me ask it, and help somebody. Then now they can build a preferred future.
Sure.
I call it these evolutionary questions, where the question is so big it takes the whole session. That's so fun, man, just to kind of rock somebody's world. And man, they're just sorting it out. So what they're doing is that treasure, I'm mining for it like a miner. And they make self-discoveries. When you make a self-discovery, you're usually going to execute on it. When you realize you're stupid about certain things financially, or you're not eating right, and you know it, and you make that discovery, that's when the change happens, right? Not just somebody telling you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that no messing around approach. There's an old Geico commercial. I don't know if you remember, but he's a military guy, and his name escapes me, but he's sitting there and he's acting as a therapist, and the guy's laying down on the couch, and he looks at him and he goes, "You know what makes me sad? You do."
I remember that. That's a great actor.
Yeah. I forget his name. He passed.
I'm not quite that bad, but I have asked some very hard questions, especially even in the high corporate, where somebody's had this real fast trajectory up into the C-suite. They're really smart. They're really sharp. They're well dressed. They communicate well, but they can't get out of. They're reading their own PR. It's just ridiculous. And then I was able to ask them a question that rocks their world. Come in the side door and ask a question and say, "Now, hang on a second. Let me ask you this. How could this look if you would get out of your own way, or draw that for me?" Whatever I might have to do with the technique, and to watch. So what they're doing then, I've just opened the door and they begin to self-coach. That is where it gets so off the chain, man.
Yeah.
That's like an athlete realizing, if I'll do this, if I'll get up at 3:00 in the morning and I'll do this, I actually can be the best runner at Brown University.
Right.
You start thinking about that coach is not doing that routine. That athlete's doing that routine. So that's that you have to flip your own switch, basically.
Sure. Yeah.
I try to get people to flip their own switch, and once they flip it, man, it's crazy. That's that preferred futuring lifestyle I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Well, you touched on a little bit with the gentleman that kind of made his way up very quickly and transitioned. How are you doing career transitions? I know you talked about that and how you guys get into that. Can you speak a little bit to that? Give us maybe an example or two.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep it brief. I know our time is precious here, but
sure.
I guess maybe 5 or 6 years ago, most of my clients were beginning to age out a little. When I say age out, I'm 48, 52, somewhere in here, 55 at the very late. They're wanting to maybe consider a transition, but I'm already their coach, and usually, so they're taking me along with them on the journey. And so then we begin to put in career transition programs that come at things a little differently. Now, how would you rebrand yourself? How do we retool your resume? How do we take a look at your LinkedIn and all your digital footprint and tell a different story? We actually, with a Trove website, use Story Brand as a platform to tell the story. But then with that, I'm handing people off to headhunters and recruiters and search firms, but I'm preparing them for the interview. I'm preparing them for the new brand.
Sure.
Sometimes they just want to get out of a huge $500 million corporation and get down into a $10 million business. So it's some of that, but we added franchise advisory credentials. 2 of us did.
Okay.
So that I can take a client all the way to a business purchase. And that's we have a webinar coming up next Thursday that's about that.